Why does CIG keep introducing locations with terrible performance? Recently, we've had the Lawville rework, which tanked performance in Lawville. It did get slightly better as they optimised, but really now it doesn't perform as well as it used to. The Pyro Outposts are also pretty terrible for performance. I did some testing whilst the Pyro playground was open, and even with really high-end hardware, performance isn't great. And now we've got these new derelict outposts across Stanton. They look great, but performance is dreadful. Big thanks to Dig That 32 who got in contact and said, have you seen these massive frame drops that we're seeing at the location? So I've been and tested, and let's start there. As you approach these locations, there are some crazy frame drops. Maybe the worst that you've ever seen in Star Citizen. The game just freezes for, I don't know, half a minute or so. And this is now quite far into the PTU process, so it's not like this is a wave one build. Everybody's got this, and I reckon there's about a week or so before CIG will want to release this to the live servers. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they can fix it, but it does resolve itself, the frame drop. Eventually it will stop, and things will be back to normal, but back to normal isn't even that good. So this is at 4K. I've gone to this oil rig location to do a mission. We've got a 4080 here and a 7800 X3D for the CPU, and you'll see we're hitting much lower numbers than other parts of the game at 4K. It's not particularly playable. It's not that pleasant to do FPS missions at 30 FPS. I don't really understand why these new locations are performing so poorly. I've then travelled to Maker's Point, another location on Hurston, and also one of the new FPS maps for Arena Commander. We'll come back to that in a moment. And again at 4K, performance is pretty woeful, but even when I've switched to 1440p, I've become CPU bound and performance was hardly any better. I just don't really understand how these locations are making it to probably live servers, I think. I don't think there's likely to be masses of optimization before this actually all ends up going live. So I just don't think it's that big a priority for CIG when they're getting 322 out to optimize these locations. They're playable, but it's not great. And I just don't understand how it's happening. I'm not a game developer, as hardly any of us are, but my understanding of this is that the team building this location will have targets in terms of performance that they're trying to hit as they're building it. So I just don't know why we're getting to the point of release and they're still performing so badly, unless they know something we don't, and maybe they're building these for a future where Vulcan comes in and solves all these issues. I don't know. I think that's optimistic, but it's happened so consistently now with these locations that we've seen over the last year. I'm starting to get slightly concerned that CIG are just throwing these things out even when they've not really done the optimization work they really needed to do on them. There are also a lot of NPCs at this location, and I'm not really sure why. They're not really doing anything, and they really can't be helping server performance. So there's so many NPCs, I think there's probably over 100, maybe even 200 at this location. There's absolutely loads of them, and they're just standing around, and it just cannot be helping the overall performance of the servers whatsoever. I mean, having these new locations to do missions at is always going to be a good thing. I don't know how many of us have got bored of doing bunker missions for the FPS combat now. So having NPCs, AI to do FPS missions on this rig that I started on is a good thing when it works. And obviously in Star Citizen, often things don't work. The NPCs, it's fair to say, were not that engaged with what was going on. I was kind of just faffing around. I turned up without any armor or anything, and I just very slowly went around and shot them all. And they even ended up bunched this massive bunch of them all together, and I don't know what was going on. They just weren't responding at all. And so we end up with this location that looks nice. It runs terribly, but it doesn't really change the gameplay whatsoever. It's just a new set dressing to do some FPS combat in, and it's frustrating. With all things Star Citizen, there's kind of a future element to everything they put in the game. These outposts are in now, and there is something to do on them, but there's no substantial gameplay. And really, I think what's happening here is we're just laying the table. We're putting out the knives and forks, all the glasses. Everything looks nice for the party guests. And then one day, there will be some food served. There'll be some gameplay food for us to eat. And I just don't think that's now. They have to build out the standard system. They had to get these locations in. But really, they're a bit of a bit of fluff, really. They're art. It's just artwork. There's not a whole heap to do in them. They don't feel alive. The NPCs don't respond to you. They don't acknowledge you. They don't talk. There's no toys. And so, it's a bit frustrating. I think it's a strange thing, having come off the back of CitizenCon when everything was so positive and we're looking to the future, all these amazing things coming. 322, I think, is a bit of a disappointment. And we also mentioned Arena Commander. So Maker's Point is in Arena Commander, and performance is still terrible in Arena Commander compared to the other Arena Commander maps, and the ones that are kind of more inside based and close quarters, that sort of thing. They can perform pretty well, but the Good Doctor, which is on a planet as well as these new ones, there's this one here and then this dark one where you can barely see anything. Not sure the wisdom of doing that. You just can't shoot anybody because you can't see anything. They perform badly as well in Arena Commander. So it's not just the fact that this is in the PU. So all round, I think these new locations, I just wish CRG would release things like this in a bit of a better state. I'm not asking for perfection. We know that this game is in pre-alpha or whatever you want to call it. We know that there's lots of time to go before any of this needs to really work perfectly, but they're a bit disappointing. They look good, perform terribly, and there's not much to do.